because I am shivering in some windy doorway watching. Although living amid the utmost respectability, I had been compelled within a fortnight of my arrival to make some strange acquaintances. There were the three men with whom I had struck up a friendship over absinthe and dominoes in the big garish Café Métropole, that new building that has sprung up opposite where the old church of St. Augustine used to stand. The elder of the three, a grey-haired, undersized man, was a Frenchman named Orsier. The others, Dutchmen named Gerard Drost and Peter Hanen. The first named about 36, with blue eyes and a scrubby reddish beard, and the latter about 22, keen-faced and clean-shaven. All three were well-dressed, but inquiries I made before becoming friendly with them showed that they were a trio of swindlers. Indeed, they endeavoured to practise a trick upon me, because I had assumed the air of one unacquainted with the Belgian capital. But when they found out their mistake, they were full of apologies, and at once classed me as an adventurer like themselves. Therefore, I gradually learned the dangerous game they intended to play, and quickly foresaw the risk I was running in being seen as their associate. The fact was that they were carefully laying plans for a gigantic fraud. One evening, Drost, who seemed to be the leader of the gang, two other members of which were in Paris, took me to his house to dine. For truth to tell, all three wished to enlist my services in the affair, because they found I could speak English and German, and might, as they put it, pass myself off as an Englishman. Arrived at Drost's abode in one of the small streets behind the Midi station, he introduced me to his sister, Marie, a flat-faced Dutch girl of about 22, who kept house for him. She was stout, with a pleasant manner, speaking Flemish usually, and French with an atrocious accent. At table, however, we soon became on good terms, and by a chance word let drop by Drost, I ascertained that the girl was engaged, and that her gallant swain was expected later. After dinner, he entered, a big, rather shy, round-faced Belgian, evidently a workman, by his new blue blouse and flat-peaked cap. He was from Liège, he told me, as we smoked our cheap cigars, while the buxom Marie cleared the table. His name was Louis Berthier. The name was familiar, but I betrayed no surprise. "And you work in Liège?" "Yes, monsieur, for Bernay in the Rue Mont-Saint-Martin." The man was the person of whom I was in search, but unfortunately this premature meeting increased my difficulties 100-fold. I may as well confess that I had cultivated the acquaintance of these three swindlers for the sole purpose of being properly introduced to Marie Drost's affianced husband, this burly Belgian workman. But my plans were not yet laid, and hence our meeting was premature. In secret, I had paid a visit to Liège on the second day of my arrival in Belgium, and having made careful inquiries regarding the young workman's friends, had returned to Brussels and become acquainted with my very undesirable friends. "Let me think," I said, as though reflecting when he told me where he worked. Bernay. What? That's the great gunsmith's, is it not? "Yes, monsieur. My uncle is a gunsmith in Birmingham," I remarked. "His name is Davis, and the revolvers he makes are, I believe, rather celebrated." "Oh, yes," he replied enthusiastically. "I know the mark quite well. They're self-ejecting, probably the best in the market." Having thus given this information regarding my fictitious family connection with gun-making, I turned the conversation into a different channel. For that occasion I had said sufficient, and presently we went forth, all of us, to spend the remainder of the evening at a small café chantant, where we sipped our free consommation in the manner of the light-hearted Bruxellois. That night I returned to Dr. Book's with mixed feelings of pleasure and disappointment. I had been introduced to Monsieur Bernay's workman, it was true, but had I known that he would have been present that evening, I should certainly not have accepted Drost's invitation. Now I knew that the ingenious fraud which the gang contemplated was shortly to be committed, and I was very anxious to successfully achieve my object and to escape from Belgium before the plans of the Dutchman were carried into execution. Otherwise I might, in all probability, fall into the hands of the police. On the following evening, I met Drost and Peter Hanen by